any other word to use, but it's magic when you watch a crime survivor be able to leave behind an addiction, or when you watch the mother of an exonerated person after years and years and years of being so stuck and so broken, be able to say, you know what, it's time for me to move on now. It's time for me to have a life beyond this over here. Or you watch an exoneree leave a retreat and know that his value and his worth are very much still there, and that he can start his own nonprofit. He can get married. He can have a baby. I mean, so there's the big things that, I'm certainly proud about, but it's watching individual people find their voices again and find that power back in their lives and do something really quite remarkable that I don't think they even knew that they could do.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Or that we knew we could do. I think,
right.
I mean, Jennifer's right. Magic is a word that we use very seriously all of the time, because we are definitely watching. I mean, clearly the model is working, right? There's no question, and the testimonials and the feedback and the measurements that we're doing, we're seeing that. I think I just want to add that I also think a very key accomplishment has been lifting the voices of crime victims and survivors in particular. Exonerated individuals, clearly innocent people in a prison don't receive enough attention because the vast majority of them, will never be found and never be freed. But I think my whole life, from going to law school to clerking for a judge, to my mom being wrongly convicted, to going on to be an Innocence Project lawyer, I'm guilty, if you will, of having always viewed these cases through the lens of the innocent prisoner, right, to the impact. And that is how the world views these cases. And the exonerated individuals have been fairly easy for us to find and connect with, right? Because they're known. In fact, there's a whole registry, right, of them. And Jennifer and I can find them, and we can engage them, and we can serve them and support them and their families. The crime victims and survivors have been so tremendously marginalized in these cases. By the time an exoneration comes around, nobody even knows where they are. And the work there is so much, I don't want to say greater, but it's so much harder for us. And we got a grant when we were just 2.5 years old. We got a 2-year grant from the Department of Justice to look into, right, to understand, to assess and address the impact of these cases on crime victims and survivors. And with that grant, we were able to do some groundbreaking work in shining the light and raising the profile of crime victims and survivors in these cases. And I think, and maybe again, it's because I come to the work differently than Jennifer does with her experience, but I do believe that there was a listening session that we had with crime survivors and murder victim family members from around the country. And it was clear, kind of like with that conference in 2013 that Jennifer participated in, it was clear that these individuals had never been asked, that they'd never been cared for. Never. From the moment that they were harmed or their loved ones were taken from them, no one had really cared for them at any point in the criminal justice system. They had evidentiary value at trial, and then after that, they were really let go and lost. And bringing those individuals together, I think, was probably one of the greatest accomplishments that we have had.
No, I'm going to agree with. I agree with Katie. I mean, Harriet, one of the terms that we use with the crime survivors, and I can speak for it, from my own personal harm, is when the exoneration takes place, the crime survivors just get completely erased out of the narrative. You don't even know who they are. You don't even know what the story was. And so not only did you lose your power and your voice and everything, your agency when the crime happened to you or your family members, but then when the exoneration plays out in the courts and the media is there to, to congratulate the innocent man or woman, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's certainly appropriate. But the crime survivors are completely eliminated from the narrative. And it's been a really difficult thing for us to watch. And it's not even just the erasing of the crime survivor's narrative, but if you're a rape survivor, you get blamed for the wrongful conviction to begin with.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I was going to ask you, as you look ahead, where do you see your organization, say, a year or 2 or 3 from now?
Well, it is our wildest dream to expand to the point where we can actually own property and open up a space where we can have these gatherings and really and expand our healing work. So that is definitely a future plan, and of course growing our staff so that we can serve. I mean, I think Jennifer and we knew that the work was going to be big. And I think 2 things have surprised us. One, how much success we've had in just 5 years, or I guess I shouldn't say success, but how much we've accomplished in just 5 years. But also the reality is the need is outpacing our ability to respond to it. We are a staff of 2 full-time people, 2 part-time people, and then Jennifer volunteering, 24/7. We need to grow, we really need to grow in not just our space, but in our human resources as well, so that we can meet the needs of all who've been impacted. Jennifer, what are you dreaming about?
Well, I think, the top of my dream list, of course, is to own our own property. That's been my dream since we started. And I think the other part of my dream is to give access to more crime survivors, that they know who we are. It has been a challenge, and it's something that's very difficult for me every day to know that there's, for every wrongful conviction, there's a crime survivor, and I don't know where they are. So I think, being able to access those folks is big on my list. And then there's, obviously I'd like to have maybe some satellite offices, so to speak, where we have people on the ground in other places that can help, do the work as well. So I don't know if you call those charters or satellite offices. I'm not sure what you would call those, but Katie's right. There's so much work to do, and there's so few of us,
doing it
currently.
Right.
Yet doing it.
So at the moment, where are you based?
We're based in Washington, D.C. That is our current space. Which of course makes sense as a national organization, but we have an office, right, where our staff gathers. But when we have our gatherings, we rent a retreat space. We worked very hard to find a place that was safe in all of the ways that it needs to be safe to the people that we serve, and so we host those retreats at that rented space 4 times a year. And so it would expand our capacity substantially to not be limited in where we could gather. So that is definitely a dream. And, not only is the work endless, the sky is the limit. I mean, we really feel we are in a very strong place with a tremendous amount of momentum. And the reality is, and I think, Jennifer is not the kind of person to ever toot her own horn, but we are here because of Jennifer's vision. She is it isn't just that she's lived it, and it isn't just that she has a heart that is as big as the universe and tirelessly wants to serve and support other people. But this vision is incredible, and we owe our success to that, Jennifer.
That's a great tribute. That's wonderful. Now, I have a last question. How can people contact you and your project if they have experienced the trauma behind a wrongful conviction? Can they just go to your website?
Absolutely. They can contact us through the website.
Okay.
We also have an office phone number, which I'm happy to give you. It is...
Go right ahead.
Yeah, 202-738-4925. That's 202-738-4925. And our website again, healingjusticeproject.org. And the email is info@healingjusticeproject.org. I do think it's important just to remind the audience that we do work exclusively in cases where an exoneration has already occurred. We get lots of people understandably reaching out, for help with their legal case or their claim of innocence. And of course, we are not an innocence project and we don't do that work. The only way we get involved in ongoing cases is in supporting crime victims and survivors and supporting prosecutors, police, and victim advocates in providing service and support to crime victims and survivors. But generally, it is cases where there has been where the legal question or the legal case has been resolved.
Okay, that's a very important distinction that, as to what you don't do and what you do. Well, I thank you both so much for all the time you have spent today sharing your personal stories and those of others to help us see the far-reaching impact of a wrongful conviction, not just on the person convicted, but on family and friends. Healing Justice offers the kind of support needed for everyone impacted to begin to heal. Jennifer and Katie, it was a pleasure speaking with you for this series of podcasts. I thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Harriet.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
You're very welcome. And I hope our listeners have learned a great deal from this series of podcasts about Healing Justice Project. It's been a real honor to speak to you both. And thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next time on Pursuing Justice.